If a bingo all night's a panda for sweet little niece.
Okay, welcome back, and today we're going to talk about making subplots. So if you remember, this is how we always turn on our graphs. We do fig comma x equals plt.subplots. I already have everything saved, and there comes our one graph. But I've started to show you that we can now we can make more than one graph. So what this really is, this is one by one. So it's saying one row, one column. So if we make it, we can actually make it add more. If we do 2, 1, we have 2 rows, 1 column. Right, we can make 1, 2. We've done this for looking at depth plots. Then now we can also do 2, 2, where we have multiple plots all lined up. And also what this is showing, what's not showing is you can also say this is called n rows equals, number of rows equals number of columns equals. Some people like that to make it a little bit clearer. I usually drop them. It seems like it's convention to drop them. Okay. And the next thing, right, and so this is usually what I do. The other thing you can do, which we do commonly, is I change the size of them. So you do fig, comma, set size, then I hit tab inches, and you sort of have to futz with them, maybe 10 by 10. That's a little bit too big for us today, but I'm gonna make them because I'm having my screen to show you. So you have them 5 by 5. Then you can add a little bit of white space between them. You can do fig, comma, right, you do fig, comma, subplots adjust. On subplots underscore adjust, and then you adjust the white space. And we can do this. I'll say 0.3. Right, you can see it adds it a little bit more white space. You can make it 0.4. Right, you can see it starts giving more and more white space between them. That just makes things look a little bit prettier. So that's sort of how to get them started. And you can go much bigger with these number of rows and columns. So for example, you could do 2 rows and we could do 5 across here. But if we did that, now we'd have to make it bigger. Oh, I chose the wrong way, so it always goes with first. Let's go back and fix that. Right, so you can see now, look at those. Those would be looking pretty graphs. I'm not putting any data in. I'm just sort of showing you how this all works. So let's go back to I'm going to go for 1 row and 3 columns. And what we want to do is we want to actually now put a little text in each of them. So we know this, so we could do ax of 0 dot text. Right, and we're going to put it in the middle, 0.5. comma 0.5, just as how these graphs are. I'm going to add a string, and I'm going to call this 0. So, right, see if this works, and it puts a 0 in the beginning. We can make the font size bigger, right? Right, there it is. And now, if you want to write in all 3 graphs, right, this gets a little bit. We'd have to make 3. And you do it 3 times, right? 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, right? And this gets tedious very quickly, right? And that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid this tedium. And you can imagine now, I'm going to do it, go back, we do 2 by 2, right? I'm going to run this and it's going to crash. Let's see what happens. Oh, it crashed. So first of all, I'm going to, right, it didn't crash because of the size. It crashed because it's saying, let's go down and look at the error, has no attribute text. And what it's saying is that we have these wrong. So it's, right, so we have to do 0, comma, right, so that's 0, comma 1, right, 1, comma 0. And if we want to get all of them, I'm going to have to add another one, which would be 1, comma 1, right, and that's how we get our graphs, right? And then our text doesn't make sense. We'd have to update this 0, comma 1, 0, 1, comma 0, 1, comma 1, right? And that gets tedious quick. So we see how we can access them, but that's not very Pythonic. It's not very easy. So let's go back and think about how we could do this a little bit nicer. So what you want to go back, I'm going to make an array of what I'm going to call plots. I'm going to say plots equals, and we're just going to work on 4 plots. I'm going to go plot 0. I'm starting with 0 because remember in Python, we start counting from 0, plot 1, plot 2, comma, plot 3. So we make our plots. Then you remember we can then for loop over plots. So for p in plots, right, print p, and it does each of them. Then you remember this other trick I showed you with enumerate. If you do enumerate plots, it's going to give us a number, so it'll give us a count, comma p. So now I could do print count, comma p, right? It gives us 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is a nice way to loop through things. We can access it and get a number. So let's see how we can do this. This is going to be a little bit tricky. I'm going to go put it back up here, right? And what I'm going to do now is just to make life easier, I'm going to do 1 row, 4 columns. And then this way we can actually now, I can get rid of this. Oliver, I'm going to save one of these axe calls. And I'm going to get us a for loop. See if you can follow along. So I'm going to get us a for loop. Get rid of the print. And now what I can do is I can say use axe of count, because we're one dimensional. Axe of count, put the text, and then in the string here, I'm going to put count and p. Let's see if this works. It worked nicely. Our graphs are a little bit the wrong shape, so let's see if we can make them a little bit wider. I already forget which one makes it wider. There we go. But look, that worked pretty well. Look, 0, plot 0, count through 1, plot 1, 2, plot 2, 3, plot 3. So that works really nicely. But now, remember, if we want to do a 2 by 2, say we didn't want these, we wanted these 2 by 2. So I'm going to do 2 rows, 2 columns. This whole thing is going to come crashing down. How are we going to do this? So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to change a bunch. So I'm going to say number of rows equals 2, number of columns equals 2. So, but first what I'm going to do is I'm going to say number of rows 1, number of columns 4, and I'm going to just put these in here. I'm going to put these in as hardwire, so we're back to working, right? 4 rows, right? 1 row, 4 columns, but if we do it 2 by 2, it's going to fail, so we're still going to fail. So how can we make this work? How can we make this? It's going to take a little bit of work. So what we do is, I'm trying to think, now where do we start? What you do is, if you know your plots and you know your rows, you're going to know your number of columns. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to set this, so say number of columns is equal to the length of plots divided by number of rows. So this way we know how many rows and columns we want. And now, this is a big step, and I'm going to have to go down here and do this. We have to use a new numpy function. Let's go look at it. So here, what I'm going to do is, I'll start up here. So it's this numpy. So right now, this axe that we set is 2-dimensional. There's this great numpy. There's this great numpy function which turns a 2D array into a 1D array. So I'm going to say axe equals np.ravel of axe 2D. And I'm going to run that. Right, so it made it. And so now what I'm going to show you, if I go down here, if you look at axe 2D, if you look here, it's a 2 by 2 array. Look, here's the array, and you can see the extra brackets, so it's 2 by 2. But if you look at axe, it's a 1-dimensional array, so it's just 1-dimensional with the 4 items. So this is what's going to save us. So we can now come back up in here, right? We can go up in here. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to do for count and p and enumerate plots. We're going to go through the plots, and it's going to go through, and it's going to put the count and the p in each of these plots. Let's see if it does it. And so what it ended up doing is it turned this 2 by 2 array into a 1-dimensional array, and it puts it in the right spot. So 0, 1, 2, 3. And here's the cool thing about this. Say I wanted 1 row. I'm just going to change it to 1 row. It made it work. Now say I want 4 rows. It made it work. So this way, by scrunching this from a 2-dimensional to a 1-dimensional array, we can get all of our plots, and put them in the right spot. So this will help you as we go through. I'm going to put it back 2 by 2 because I think that's pretty. Even though it's not the greatest shape, so let me go back and make this probably 7 by 7. Let's see how it looks. It should look nice and pretty. There you go. So now we have a 2 by 2 array. We make our 2 by 2 subplot array. We set our size. We scrunch it using the np.ravel. And now we can just loop through like normal and put everything we want on our plot. So you're going to be able to use this loop, and instead of just using this fake plots, you're going to be able to look for different elements and different correlations today. Good luck.